fancy ending a worship session that's supposed to be about Jesus on following me, liking me, commenting and subscribing and scanning the QR code. It just feels off. Church as we know it today is a big shiny building with a stage and instruments and a band and leaflets and things for you to sign up to. You do not need a big, glossy, shiny building to find God. Alright guys, welcome to this video. Hopefully it reaches the right people who I'm trying to speak to. Guys, this is about church and kind of what it's become today and why I think a lot of people are not Christians yet. In this video I'm just going to talk about a few personal experiences without going into loads of detail. I mostly want this video to relate to people who may have been or are currently going through experiences that I have been through, and why those experiences might actually be taking you further away from wanting to live a life believing in God or following Jesus or living like Jesus or opening the Bible and asking some questions about it. As a disclaimer, I am very new to Christianity and faith, right? I'm still eating apple puree. I am a baby within all of this, as many of us are. I will also just say that I have never publicly or openly spoken about my belief or beliefs or any of my personal experiences. I've never expressed myself in this sort of way, so this is very much new to me. But the reason I'm biting the bullet, so to speak, and creating this video is because if I can help just one person, then that's amazing. If I can help a group of people, then that's also very, very cool. So let's get into the video. So firstly, every church that I've ever walked into has always felt like a big performance, and everything felt bigger than it really needed to be. There's lights, there's cameras, there's smoke machines, there's teams of people, there's bands, there's, musical equipment. We're live streaming to YouTube. And I just remember either sitting or standing there thinking, is this actually about faith? Like, are we actually all here for Jesus, or are we just here for theatre? Because from, a new person in Christianity, or from the outside looking in, it did just feel like a performance more than anything to do with Jesus. It really did feel like people were performing Christianity rather than actually living it. People were always over-delivering on emotion. People were oddly over-delivering on being weak. And then there's also people who were over-delivering on giving and saying the right things just because it was the right thing to say. It was almost like people were trying to prove how surrendered they were. And maybe for some of these people it was genuine. By no means is this video supposed to judge what was actually going on in people's hearts at that time. But for somebody like me who genuinely values honesty, and for somebody who likes to ask difficult questions and didn't want to put on this act just so I felt like I fit in within this church culture, it can actually start to feel more isolating than as if I was sat at home on my own with a coffee on my armchair with my Bible open. And then there's the church sermons, which mostly leave you with more questions than when you went in, which is not always such a bad thing. But during the sermon or the message that's being given that day, you can be sat there looking around and everybody is nodding their head in agreement as if they know exactly what's going on and as if they've got it all figured out. And I'll just be sat or stood there thinking, I've still got so many questions. And it never really felt like there was a space or good opportunity for questions or even better, difficult questions. There was just a lot of certainty, a lot of the overall performance. And it just looked like a load of people who all had it figured out. And maybe that works for some people. But for me, it made church feel less of a place where I could grow closer to Jesus and more like a place where I had to fit this particular mold that it just seemed like everybody else was within or being shaped within, if that makes any sense. And over this period of time, I realized something that was really important to me. And that is that church and Jesus are not the same thing. Walking away from church culture didn't mean I was walking away from Jesus. In fact, for me, at that time of making the decision not to go to what we know it as today being church, I actually then was able to grow within myself and grow closer to Jesus and try to live as closely like him as possible. I could now stop worrying about how spiritual I looked and could focus on actually just living right. Because following Jesus, it's not about performance. And it's not about looking weak because it's the Christian thing to do. And it's certainly not about public displays of praying and singing and worshipping. Fundamentally, church is about the truth and actually living as closely like Jesus as humanly possible. And I think there's a lot of people out there like me who have not rejected Jesus by any means. They've just rejected this 2026 performance that surrounds him. There's people that still believe in Jesus, they still want the truth and they still want to remain faithful, but genuinely struggle with what church has become today. And if that's you, I'd really love you to hear this from me. You do not need a big, glossy, shiny building to find God. You don't need a stage, you don't need the lights, camera and action. And you don't need to be surrounded by people who are seemingly performing this spiritual thing around you. And to understand that church as we know it today is a big shiny building with a stage and instruments and a band and leaflets and things for you to sign up to. But what church actually is you and a buddy of yours on a walk, or sat in a park, or sat in your kitchen or your living room with a Bible open, and the pair of you read a verse and you talk about it together and you see if you can relate to the verse. And you know, you can pull up a Google page and type that verse in and see what other people are saying about it and discover in your own way, in your own time, with people that you can genuinely trust. And that's enough, because church was never supposed to be a performance. Church is supposed to be people. And maybe the reason you've struggled following Jesus is because of the idea of church. Maybe you feel pressured to go to church, and if you don't go to church, then you can't be a believer or a follower of Jesus, and that's simply not true. And not going to church as we know it today, as beautiful as that experience can be, for newcomers to Christianity and even for the vets, church as we know it today can be off-putting, because for a lot of churches they focus more on the business model and money that they can raise and putting on this performance and making sure at the end of the sermon they are saying make sure to follow, like, subscribe, scan the QR code, which, fancy ending a worship session that's supposed to be about Jesus on following me, liking me, commenting and subscribing and scanning the QR code. It just feels off. So for any of you who are watching or have watched this video and you feel like you can relate, obviously feel free to get involved in the comment box below. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe. Obviously, I'm joking. Based off of what I just said, that was a bad joke. But yeah, if you want to leave your thoughts and questions in the comment box below, then by all means, feel absolutely free. Guys, I hope you're all doing well. The world is going through a crazy time right now. There seems to be divides between all of us and everyone. which I guess is another reason why I wanted to bring this video to you guys. So whether it gets seen or doesn't make a difference to me. But as mentioned at the very beginning of the video, if it can help one person or several people, then that's absolutely amazing. Guys, stay well, and I'll catch you in the next one.